Okay, so you're here because you really want to understand a topic.
Yeah,
You want to get to the interesting parts and the important stuff without having to wade through a ton of information.
exactly.
So that's what we're doing in this deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we are going to be talking about the Ayurvedic Products Market.
Yes, and we're going to take a deep dive into some recent market analysis and pull out all the interesting parts for you guys.
So Ayurveda, for anyone who's not totally familiar, it is a system that is ancient Indian,
Yeah.
and it's really all about this natural and holistic well-being, right? So it encompasses all sorts of different things, herbal supplements that support health, skin care, personal care, that are rooted in these natural ingredients and even therapeutic applications. And it's really growing like crazy. I mean, the numbers that we're seeing are pretty astonishing.
Yeah.
So the global market for Ayurvedic products was estimated in 2024 at 15,241.5 million USD.
Wow.
And then by 2032, it's projected to reach 109,826.6 million USD.
That's huge.
That's with a compound annual growth rate of 28%.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty significant jump.
It's very significant. And I think what's really interesting is why is this market expanding so much?
Right.
And I think it really comes down to consumer preference shifting. There's a preference for natural and chemical-free options. More people are interested in preventative health care, being proactive about their health. And I think Ayurveda is really well suited for that because it has such a long history and is so focused on this sort of natural balance.
Right. So it's more than just a trend. It's really this whole approach, and that's what we're going to break down today. So we're going to look at the factors that are driving this growth and the trends that are shaping this market, some of the challenges that it faces, and of course, what the potential for the future is.
Yeah.
So where do we even start? I guess let's start with that current landscape.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the market in 2024 was about 15.24 billion USD.
Right.
And we're looking at almost 110 million USD by 2032.
Right. And this is based on, real demand. This isn't just speculation. This is because of, this demand for natural wellness solutions, whether it's in healthcare, personal care, dietary supplements.
I think a great example of this is Patanjali Ayurveda.
Okay.
They launched in March of 2023 a new line of herbal products for boosting immunity and skincare.
So they're capitalizing on that.
Exactly. And I think it also goes to show that there's a lot of innovation happening in this space.
Right. And when we look at the trends, I mean, those figures from 2024, the 15 billion USD market size, it really highlights the way consumers are moving towards this natural remedies, organic products, and herbal supplements.
Yeah, and there are a lot of factors driving that. I think we're seeing rising disposable incomes globally. So more people have the financial means to invest in their wellness, and there's also this shift towards a more holistic view of well-being.
Right.
Not just thinking about physical health, but also mental and emotional health. And also Ayurvedic brands are becoming more visible in Western markets, wider distribution.
So this is global. How does it break down regionally?
Yeah, so in 2024, North America actually held the largest share of the global market, about 32%.
Wow.
And I think that's due to demand for organic and plant-based products. A lot of wellness centers are popping up. And I think there's just a general acceptance of holistic healing in North America.
Right, that makes sense. So what about Europe?
Yeah, Europe held a sizable 28%.
Okay.
And their growth is being driven by rising consumer awareness about the benefits of Ayurveda. And a couple of really big premium herbal brands have done a great job of marketing themselves in Europe.
Interesting. So where are we seeing the most growth and activity?
Definitely the Asia-Pacific region.
Okay.
So in 2024, they held 27% of the global market. And projections show that that's going to rise to 30% by 2025.
Wow.
With a compound annual growth rate of 30.5%.
That's amazing.
It is. India, China, and Japan are really leading the way there, driven by government initiatives supporting traditional medicine and a rapidly expanding e-commerce market, which makes these products so much more accessible.
Right. And a growing middle class with more purchasing power.
Exactly.
So now we've kind of got a picture of, the regional breakdown. Who are the companies that are driving this forward? Who are the major players?
Yeah. It's a competitive market, but there are a few really big players. So in 2024, Dabur Ltd held the largest share at about 15%.
Okay.
Patanjali Ayurveda Limited was right behind them at about 12%. And then Himalaya Wellness Company was at about 10%.
And how are they staying ahead? What are their strategies?
So they're really focusing on diversifying their products.
Okay.
It's not just traditional medicines anymore. They're branching out into skincare, dietary supplements, personal care products.
Right.
They've got these really aggressive marketing campaigns
Hmm.
to build brand recognition and loyalty.
Right.
And they're also utilizing extensive distribution networks,
Right.
both through traditional retail and e-commerce.
Right.
And they're investing a ton of money in research and development.
Okay.
So constantly exploring new herbal formulations, they're trying to scientifically validate traditional uses
Hmm.
and innovating to make better products.
So they're adapting to the changing landscape.
Exactly. And there's also a lot of partnerships, mergers, and acquisitions happening.
Right.
So they're really trying to strengthen their reach.
So looking ahead to 2025, are things just going to keep going like this, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, competition is expected to get even fiercer.
Oh.
We're going to see new companies entering the market, established international brands are going to try to get in on this.
Right.
So it's going to be an interesting space to watch.
So let's talk about the demand. What is actually driving this huge demand for Ayurvedic products?
I think at the root of it, it's this growing consumer preference for natural, sustainable, and holistic solutions.
Mm-hmm.
People are starting to realize that synthetic chemicals can have some pretty nasty long-term effects.
Right.
And they're attracted to Ayurveda because they see it as being gentle and having long-term benefits
Right.
that really align with that proactive wellness lifestyle.
Yeah, it fits in with the bigger picture of health trends and things like that.
Yeah.
So how is this translating to the actual products people are buying?
So in 2024, personal care and wellness products from Ayurveda made up the biggest chunk of the market, about 50%.
Okay.
Medicines and herbal dietary supplements were at around 35%.
Mm-hmm.
And then things like herbal beverages, organic food with Ayurvedic ingredients, and baby care items were at about 15%.
Wow.
And looking ahead to 2025, we're expecting to see an even bigger demand for immune boosters, Ayurvedic skincare, and herbal nutritional supplements.
So it seems like the knowledge of this ancient medicine from India is really being accepted and applied in a broader way.
Yeah, I think there is this growing recognition and integration of traditional Indian medicine into modern healthcare systems in different parts of the world.
So it's not just about the ancient formulas anymore. What role is technology playing in this?
Yeah, technology is a big part of it. Now we're seeing advancements in the way we extract beneficial compounds from herbs and formulate Ayurvedic products. And artificial intelligence is being used to personalize product recommendations.
Wow. So AI is actually in there.
Yeah, and scientific research is also really crucial because it's helping to standardize traditional formulations
Right.
and provide evidence that these things actually work.
So are there like specific examples of companies doing this?
Yeah, so Dabur expanded their Ayurvedic Research Center back in April 2023.
Okay.
And they're focusing on areas like immunity, stress management, and digestion. And they're actually integrating biotechnology into their research.
Wow.
Patanjali has expanded into nutraceuticals.
Mm.
They've got herbal protein powders, supplements, and beverages.
Right.
And Himalaya is really invested in scientifically validating their skincare and pharmaceutical products.
So it's really bringing that ancient wisdom together with modern science. And you mentioned earlier the Asia-Pacific region and how much growth is happening there.
Yeah, so by 2024, the Asia-Pacific region was already accounting for about 40% of the global Ayurvedic products market.
Wow.
And that's expected to hit 43% by 2025 with a CAGR of 10%.
Wow.
India, China, and Indonesia are really the driving forces there.
So let's talk more about this consumer shift.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people so attracted to Ayurveda?
I think there's this growing awareness among consumers about the ingredients in the products they use, both what they put in their bodies and on their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to understand that synthetic chemicals and artificial additives and everything from skincare to food to medications can have long-term health consequences.
Right.
So they're actively seeking out natural alternatives.
And they trust these natural solutions.
Exactly.
Right.
And Ayurveda, with its emphasis on plant-based ingredients and this whole holistic approach to healing, really resonates with those values.
And this is happening particularly with younger generations.
Yeah, millennials and really anyone who's health conscious are looking for these comprehensive wellness solutions.
Right.
And the awareness of traditional medicinal systems is growing. Plus, there's more and more scientific research coming out that's supporting the efficacy of Ayurvedic practices and ingredients. So people are gaining confidence.
Right. And we saw that big expansion in 2024 of dietary supplements, herbal skincare products, and those immunity boosters.
Yeah. And this whole movement towards plant-based formulations has really pushed these major players in the market to diversify.
Right. They have to adapt.
Exactly. They have to meet these changing consumer demands.
What about governments? What role are they playing in all of this?
Yeah, so government support is actually really significant.
Mm,
In a lot of countries, we're seeing more favorable regulatory frameworks that make it easier to market Ayurvedic products as supplements and therapeutics,
okay.
often with less strict regulations than pharmaceutical drugs.
So that's going to help with growth.
Yeah, definitely. And India, being the birthplace of Ayurveda, has been really proactive.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2024, they really stepped up their efforts to standardize and promote Ayurvedic products for both the domestic market and international export.
Okay.
And this includes more government funding for research and stricter quality control and safety standards for manufacturing.
So that's going to increase consumer trust.
Absolutely. And we're also seeing more Ayurvedic wellness centers and retreats popping up around the world,
Okay.
especially in North America and Europe, which is great for visibility and also creates export opportunities.
So it seems like there's this really positive trajectory for this market. But are there any challenges, any potential downsides?
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-oh.
So one of the biggest challenges is the lack of globally accepted standards for Ayurvedic products.
Right.
So this inconsistency across different markets makes it hard for companies to guarantee quality, safety, and efficacy worldwide.
So that's a problem for consumers and manufacturers.
Exactly. Everyone's kind of in the dark.
Right.
And also, while Ayurveda has this incredibly long history and traditional use, the scientific validation for a lot of the traditional formulations is still pretty limited compared to conventional medicine.
Mm.
So regulatory agencies in places like the US and Europe often need extensive clinical evidence to back up any health claims for herbal products.
Why?
And this lack of standardized clinical trial data can really hinder mainstream adoption and potentially limit the market's growth in those regions.
So they need more research?
Exactly. And then there's another problem, which is the rise of counterfeit and low quality products.
Oh.
This is a big concern because it can really damage consumer trust
Mm.
and hurt the reputation of the entire industry.
Right.
So we need more transparency in the sourcing of ingredients, better quality assurance processes, and reliable certification systems.
Okay.
And then on top of that, there's the complexity of labeling requirements and restrictions on certain herbs in different regions
Right.
because of concerns about toxicity or drug interactions.
So those are some pretty big hurdles.
Yeah, it's not all smooth sailing, but I think if these challenges are addressed, it can really set the stage for a positive future.
So what can we expect down the road? What are some of the innovations and exciting developments coming up?
I think the future is really bright for Ayurvedic products, and we're going to see a lot of innovation, research-backed formulations, and product diversification.
Mm-hmm.
One really cool development is the February 2025 launch of those plant-based skincare products by the National Institute of Ayurveda.
Okay.
This is a big deal because it's bringing scientifically developed natural skincare into the mainstream market.
Right.
And these products use traditional herbs and sustainable practices to address modern skincare concerns like aging and hyperpigmentation.
That's really interesting. So it's taking that ancient knowledge and applying it to modern day needs.
Exactly. And another big trend is personalized Ayurvedic wellness solutions.
Uh-huh.
So companies are starting to use AI-powered diagnostic tools
Wow.
to give people customized recommendations
Mm.
based on their constitution, their lifestyle, and even their genetics.
Wow, that's really personalized.
Yeah, and this has the potential to make Ayurvedic treatments and products even more effective.
So the future is going to be really interesting with this blend of AI and Ayurveda.
Yeah, and we're also seeing more integration of Ayurveda with nutraceuticals. So new products are being developed that include functional foods and beverages with Ayurvedic ingredients,
Right.
targeting specific health benefits like gut health, cognitive function, and stress reduction.
So those are some really cool things to look forward to. So to kind of sum up what we talked about,
Yeah,
we've seen that this market is growing like crazy.
it is.
And it's driven by this global trend towards natural and holistic wellness. We looked at the differences in market share across regions, the big companies that are shaping this space,
Yeah,
the role of technology and science, and the challenges of standardization and regulation,
definitely.
and of course the exciting future developments that are coming up.
Mhm.
I mean, the growth projection from 15 billion USD to 110 billion USD by 2032 is just incredible.
It's huge.
And the way Ayurvedic products are expanding beyond traditional medicines into these new areas like skincare and functional foods really shows that this is something that appeals to a broad range of consumers.
It's going mainstream.
So here's something for you to think about. You know, as we see this blend of ancient Ayurvedic wisdom and modern scientific advancements in this market, what do you think the long-term impacts are going to be for healthcare and well-being on a global scale?
It's fascinating to think about.
And how might these personalized Ayurvedic solutions actually reshape the way we think about health and how we approach preventing disease in the future?
Mm-hmm.
It's this really interesting balance between tradition and innovation.
It is.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Ayurvedic products.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.